Hello and welcome to this new tutorial using Quixel Mixer. Now this is version 2018.2.4. If you've got a newer version it's okay. This is a kind of stable one from around about the beginning of February, mid-February 2019. So let's go ahead and just start a new demo mix here. Okay, so I've made this already in this new project, and I'm going to add a new mix called Demo Mix 1. I'm going to work on 24:8 resolution because I've got a decent PC. Metalness is fine, and I've got in my local library some downloads. So let's say I want to get some more. I'm just going to, so it's automatically signed me in here. I'm just going to get some more free ones. So let's see. All types. Let's look for some more moss. Okay. Mossy ground. So we got a free one here, but I've already got this in the project, so that's what that little green tick means. This is in my project. This one's in my project. So no more free ones here. Let's just do it all. And by featured, maybe we've got some free featured ones. Let's do by latest, and we're just looking for the little free tag at the top left. I just want to get one more. Let's just type in rock. Okay, there's some free forest roots, right? And then there's some free rock here. I've got this one I've got, so I'm going to get this one. Okay, it's going to download. Why not just get this as well, right? So download both of these. You can download at the same time. It's quite intuitive that way. Here's another one. Icelandic jagged surface. Maybe I'll leave that out. I've already got one in my project that's fairly similar. Okay, so once you download these, they go into a local library, and you can see them here. And to start a mix, just choose anything. So I'm going to choose the most, I try to choose the most groundiest materials, how I like to work. So you maybe got rocks on top of the ground, so I'll start with this forest roots, right? And then we'll do some rocks and moss. So just leave that as is. Now local library, bring in the rocks. Local library, let's bring in clover patches first, and then the tileable moss decal. Right, already that's quite nice, but you can see that the way that this actually works is driving this moss through a mask. So if I was to invert this mask, you can see it's showing me the non-moss areas, and this is just obviously the texture bleed. So there's not much I can do with this because the way it's been made, the mask is coming in with it. But maybe I can add like a secondary mask at some point, or a paint mask, and then paint, you know, what I want to see, what I don't want to see from that one. Right? Maybe a soft brush is better. Maybe using the pen to it. So I can get rid of some bits by painting black if I don't want all that moss. Right, and bear in mind it's not as rough or as noisy, but I could potentially load in a new brush here that's maybe a noisier brush. This one looks kind of noisy, and you can see the profile of it there. But you can bring in your own brushes. Just click on this add brush. Right, just beware that if you're clicking on one that's already a kind of custom brush, it will come up across, and I think that means to delete it potentially. So just make sure you're on one that shows the little folder. I don't know if I've got any alphas that will work, but let's see what I've got. Usually store things in my little alphas. I have no idea. Yeah, these aren't really relevant. More mechanical. Same thing. Yeah, I've got some of my own ones here. Okay, so I can bring in like natural noise dirt, right? And there we go. That's a lot more noisy there. Just want to zoom into that. So if I press X, I can bring that back. And the good thing is I can't go, well, I can go further than this mask. It would be good if that overdrove it. I was talking nonsense there, thinking that, you know, this would then be channeled through this mask and not go any further, but it's not the case. Also, it would be good to have like a smoothing option. We can change the opacity and flow, right? And it's kind of halfway there. Right. Okay, so that's the topmost layer, and you can see some of this ground doesn't make much sense. I'm going to move, or at least rotate, these until they kind of look decent. I can again paint some bits away and change the threshold and things to see what the difference is. We've got the rock here, we can move that around. Okay, so this I'm going to move so that some of it lands on the rock, but you can see maybe the threshold of it isn't quite high enough. Again, I've got this opacity masked on, which just means they're kind of blending together. I want from above, and with that I should be able to get this wrapping to the base. So whatever's below it, get some low, high frequency details in. It's starting to look a little bit more uniform. Let's have a look at this one. I'm going to do from above just to see the difference. Yeah, so from above is growing grass on top of the rock, so that doesn't look good. So from below makes sense because we want it to come through this grassy area. I'm also going to change the tint a little bit to be a little bit more aged looking, like that, and that way it contrasts with the moss. The moss as well, I'm going to make that a little bit more green. And we can just try it in different lights to see how it looks. Yeah, kind of studio lighting as if it's indoor. It needs a little bit more frequency. Okay, what I was going to do with these rocks now, can make them quite smooth to make it look more worn out. Bear in mind when you're moving these sliders, you tend to get a kind of blurrier image, so when you let go you'll see a kind of truer image. If you want, you can change the working resolution up to 4096 just to see the difference. There's a lot of detail in these maps, and sometimes it goes amiss and you might end up overlaying too much detail. Okay, so it's built up the 4K map there. I think I'll bring in a little bit more of the high frequencies in. Let's change the lighting again, street lights. Quite nice. Now some of these sticks don't make much sense, so what I'm going to do is just offset. I'm going to try and get it. So I like this stick kind of where it is. I like it's like a root grown over this rock, but it's a little bit, I don't know, it just looks like it's a little bit merged with it. So I'm just going to mess about with these frequencies until it looks bit more believable. And what I like to do is I tend to go like high and low with the slider and then sort of bounce it until I get to a point that's sweet. You know, like, so go high, go low, go high, go low, and sort of bounce until you're looking at it and you're moving this at the same time and you're getting to that sweet spot. And eventually you'll get to a point where you can't really do much more with it. So this stick looks all kind of like embedded into this rock. I'd like to make this higher. So what I can do is add paint layer, right? And I can bring up the displacement of some areas. Just use my pen with the soft brush and we'll reduce the size a bit. So I make this go up the way and then I start painting. And you can see I can paint some of this stick a little bit higher. Right? But then I want to paint just the inside there just a little bit lower. Oh, got that way too small. Needs to be decent size brush. You need to paint over and then let go to see the update. So paint over, let go, and then the update comes. Right, and I can do this with some of this rock here as well. Alright, let's say I want to bring some of this rock higher. I can bring this up the way and for the size. So I can bring some of that up and through. Now bear in mind I'm bringing up, the displacement's actually going through to a different layer. And it's a little bit tricky to tell what's happening, but this here is coming from, it's the base, right? So I'm actually bringing up the base, and as I bring this higher, the rock itself, the threshold's not quite there anymore to be seen. So I could always bring this threshold up, and that will sort of bring it back in, right? And you can see how it sort of merges on this now, but I think that's quite nice. Run a bit there, right? And that's a nice tileable texture. And would make for a nice rocky landscape. If you don't like so much of this rock, you can add a paint mask and then start painting like the areas you don't want. So you have to paint and then let go to see it. If you're painting with a mouse, it's the same difference. So opacity and flow I like to have kind of low. And then I would try and go with the shape of things. So yeah, you might have some of this this overlapping the rocks, but you might want the rock to sort of creep in I'm pressing X just to get the opposite value really quickly. Yeah, so I can bring this rock right up, and I just want this edge to be sharp. I can go ahead and make a sharper brush if I wanted as well. Let's just add that brush back in. Let's add this one. Okay. It's a nice little effect appearing between the brush. I just need the ability to smooth would be nice, like a smoothing brush. I don't think there is one just yet. That's a liquid layer, but it would be good just to be able to smooth this. I guess I can get the soft brush here and kind of go over it, and I'll just press X and X a few times, and eventually that detail will get lost. I'm just moving it up and down. I can also flatten it out a bit, maybe. Anyway, that's quite nice. If I wanted to add some dampness to the ground, I could then go to the top and add a liquid layer and bring the threshold down a bit, like to a bit there, and then increase the radius and maybe the threshold radius as well. Now you don't want it too far that everything starts to look like ice, you know, because you might not get like all this being that way. It starts to look like ice when it starts to lose the flatness of it. So you want to be less is more with these kind of things. You don't want it to be too damp that, you know, it's going to be like a swamp or something. You want it to be a terrain you might potentially walk on. So you see as this starts to ramp up these sides, it starts to look icy. So you can change like the threshold and things, and just to see what kind of works better. A sharper radius definitely helps. You can choose to blur it, but I think it's quite nice. Darken it down a bit underneath. The opacity. So that looks pretty good overall as a base. And go ahead and increase this frequencies even more, get different looks. And if you're using this in game, you will need to use like a DX11 tessellation displacement map. So this would spit out your displacement, and then you can offset things, or you can take into ZBrush and use the displacement on a mesh, then like retopologize that and use that as a mesh, put your texture on it. So there's a few options, and I'll maybe show the details of that in another video, but it's quite extensive and I don't want to get too bogged down. So add more high frequencies to this rock just for a bit more detail to come back, and then we'll move the light around. Let's try it in some different settings. Overcast, indoors, so there you go. There's a really quick tutorial, and that's just using some of the free stuff that Quixel's released recently and whatever was in my library, and you can see some of that. Oh, what's going on here? So that might be, yeah, some of the mask stuff that I added was just bringing in the non-detailed part. I've just taken that away. It's already improved a bit, but it's a little bit high. So it's from above radius. So one thing you need to watch is this kind of thing happening, because there's not enough detail there. So you can just reduce things a bit before that happens. And you can try preserve details to see if it helps as well. Okay, I hope you like watching this tutorial, and feel free to comment below anything you'd like me to try and do, or anything missing that I never really got around to. Thanks for watching, bye.